What's this space?
Let me introduce the amazing authors who are joining me here. I'm going to start with Lucy Foley. I sort of feel like she doesn't need any introduction, but I'm still going to do it because I did the research and you're going to have to hear about it. Lucy Foley is an internationally best-selling author whose crime novels have sold over 5 million copies. She is a #1 New York Times and Sunday Times bestseller, most recently with her book, The Midnight Feast. She is currently working on a new Miss Marple novel, news to everyone here, which I can't wait to read. And next to her is Abir Mukherjee. He is the author of the multiply award-winning and best-selling Wyndham and Banerjee books, which are set in Raj-era India, and the thriller Hunted, which won Theakston Old Peculiar Crime Novel of the Year and the British Book Award for Crime and Thriller Book of the Year this year. When he's not rearranging his awards, he also hosts a podcast with fellow author Wasim Khan, now called Murder Junction. Did you have to change the name?
Wasim told me we were changing the name. We had a discussion and then he decided we were changing the name. So.
I assumed it was legal issues,
Probably at some point.
Yeah. And then, last but definitely not least, is Janice Hallett, the author of 5 Sunday Times best-selling novels, including The Appeal and The Mysterious Case of the Alberton Angels. She has won a Crime and Thriller Book of the Year at the British Book Awards and the CWA John Creasy New Blood Dagger. Her novels have been chosen as Waterstone's Thriller of the Month and for the Richard and Judy Book Club. And I am Jane Casey, author of the Maeve Kerrigan series and lifelong Agatha Christie fan. I was so excited to be asked to do this, and one reason is because we're here to talk about character. And I think Agatha Christie gets a little bit overlooked when it comes to character. I think people think of her as an amazing plotter, but actually her characters are just as incredible. And just to prove that, I'm going to ask you, a bit of audience participation, to put your hands up if you are a Poirot person or if you are a Miss Marple person. So Poirot, Miss Marple.
Oh.
Is anyone neutral?
There's a Swiss person over there.
And you just love them all. So I just think it's amazing to be an author who can create characters like that, who are just so extremely compelling that we all have very strong opinions about them. And I wanted to ask my lovely panelists, what was your first Agatha Christie novel that you read, and was it a Miss Marple or a Poirot?
Mine was very basic, Murder on the Orient Express. That was my route in. I was 12, I'd run out of my books, we were on holiday, I'd run out of the books I'd brought, I found it on the bookshelf, and I remember so distinctly the feeling of reading it. I remember sitting there as the light changed, because I read the whole book in a day, and I was just hooked, that kind of the puzzle element of it. I probably read all of them, I think, after that, way too young, but really not for the darkness, because there is so much darkness there, but for that kind of puzzle, the sort of contract between the writer and the reader and the satisfaction of trying to solve it. Yes.
But then you ended up preferring Miss Marple.
Yes, but only, I think, later on, kind of relatively recently, and not just to do with being picked to write Miss Marple, but, I think I love Poirot, and I love the locations, I love the kind of cleverness of the plotting, all of that kind of physical clues. But what I love about Marple is the sort of humanity, I suppose, but also her sense of humour and the fact that she's in on the joke. So I often think that the humour in the Poirot is sort of at his expense, it's his kind of funny ways and his sort of finickiness. And Marple knows what people see when they look at her. She knows that she's underestimated, and she uses that as her superpower. And she's very funny, and she's also very dark, which I love. Poirot always hopes for the best, and Marple's, her expectations are here. She's lived in a little British village, and she knows that people are trash. So.
Abir, what was your first?
Well, before that, I just want to say, what a beautifully dressed audience, right? You know what? I was reading the books thinking, I was looking for an Indian character, maybe a Maharaja that I could come dressed as, but there weren't any, which is probably just as well, because getting on the Northern Line dressed as a Maharaja is probably not a good idea. Yeah, I'm from Glasgow, so I didn't start reading the books. I saw Poirot on the TV first, right? Because that's what we do in Glasgow. And I grew up with David Suchet, obviously. And I think the first Poirot novel, I mean, I fell in love then, right? My first Poirot novel that I would have read would have been Death on the Nile, which I still think is a classic. It's still up there with the best. I think the solution to it is, Sophie was saying earlier, I think it's really clever. Possibly because at the age of 14 I didn't work it out. And I peaked at 14, so that's also a problem. But yeah, I mean, I fell in love then. I remember my father would sort of drop me off at the library in Hamilton while he went off to do other stuff, and I would spend just hours, reading. Once I found Christie, I would spend hours just reading through the canon. Possibly because he found it cheaper than childcare to just leave me there. But once you're in, you're hooked, right? And it affects all of us as writers as well, right? So yeah.
Janice.
Well, for me, I'm a mix of both Lucy and Abir because it's Murder on
That's
the
not a
Orient
good place to be. Sorry, mate.
It's Murder on the Orient Express for me, but not the book. I also didn't encounter books really until I was much older. And for me, it was the film, which I think was made in the mid-70s. I would have seen it in the late 70s. It's the one with Albert Finney.
Yeah.
And it's got everyone in it. If you look at it, it's like the British film and TV industry in one particular film. It's got Sean Connery, I think it's got Lauren Bacall is in it. It's got everyone.
Ingrid Bergman. Sorry.
It's literally, it's every single character is a big name. But I remember watching it and seeing this story where there are lots and lots and lots of really different characters. Any of them could have done it. And I was mesmerised. I'd never seen, and I've certainly not read anything like that at all. And I remember that moment of just being mesmerised by what I was encountering. And it wasn't even the visuals, it was the whole nature of the story. So yeah, that was my first encounter. And I was, probably about 9 or 10.
And then you started reading them later?
Much later. In fact, not seriously until I became a crime author. So I've been diving in recent years. And at the moment I'm reading The Hollow, which Sophie mentioned, for a couple of projects. And I'm deep in that right now. And it's just wonderful.
The Hollow is honestly one of my favourites, and it doesn't usually get mentioned.
It's very little known.
And the other one that I love, because it was my first one, was Sparkling Cyanide.
Okay.
Nobody ever has as their first Christie, and nobody else ever really likes, I think.
Did you just see the title and thought, that's the book for me?
I knew it was about champagne and partying, and I thought, that'll do. That'll do. Lucy, what sort of characters do you think, if Agatha Christie was writing today, who would she be skewering in her books?
Well, I think what Christie does so well is sort of the middle classes, really. It's kind of ordinary people. I think, we have this idea that they're kind of eat the rich, but they're not really. I mean, obviously people are you've got the kind of manor house and the kind of well-to-do, but I think, it's doctors and chemists and I'm going to run out of a sort of, kind of middle-class professions. But and I think that's what actually, for me, makes them very much not cosy crimes. It's the ordinary person and sort of what's kind of latent within them and the sort of pettiness sometimes that leads people to commit these kind of horrible acts. So I don't know. I mean, I think it would be the same sort of...
It's people who need to pay VAT on school fees. That's what you're saying, right? They commit more to pay for the VAT. Yeah.
I want to read that book.
True.
Yeah. Yeah, would she be skewering the sort of the city boys? Probably. I think she'd do that very well.
I think she might have an Instagram influencer in there.
Oh, that's a good one.
Definitely.
Yeah.
That would be 2025's The Actress.
Yeah.
Abir, has she been a big influence on you in writing your series, particularly?
Yes, well, I think she's an influence on anyone who's a crime writer, right? You always want, I think we all want to at some point write a locked room mystery, right? And that is because of Christie. And you know, my fourth book was a locked room mystery because it took me 4 books to come up with something that was even slightly clever that hadn't been done. But on a more general level, there was so much that she did first. Right, you know, there's so many things that we do that you think, oh, that's really clever, and then you realise Agatha Christie did it, you know, 80 years ago, and you think, oh my gosh. If I have an issue with Agatha Christie, though, it's for such a wonderfully clever woman, you know, a woman who was ahead of most of us, of most of the people in her time. I wish she'd turned her gaze to some of the issues in her society. A bit more, because, as you say, she concentrates on part of society that she knows. She doesn't seem to give the same gaze to, let's say, the lower orders, and also foreigners, right? A lot of them are cardboard cutouts, and those are my issues with her. But you can't take away from the fact that this woman was, you know, everything that we do, I mean, we are standing on her shoulders, right? Yeah. And we're very fortunate to be able to do that. Well, thank you. Thanks, Mum.
You've got one fan out there. You can take that home with you. Janice, which of your books would you say is influenced by Christie, if any of them?
Oh, goodness. I'd say all of them and none. I try not to think too much about other authors' plots when I'm writing, in case I inadvertently plagiarise them. And that's my big fear. And like Abir says, you know, Christie got there first with most of the twists you can have. So it's modernising the locked room mystery, the multi-person, the multi-suspect murder mystery. It's doing that for me. It's bringing something new. And I think Sophie talked about Roger Ackroyd. I would love to have a book that got people talking the way that did about something so different and so new that they'd never seen before. That would be the pinnacle that I'd aim at, really. So, yeah.
And she did it time and again, right?
Time and again, all throughout her career. She reinvented the genre. Incredible.
Kind of annoying.
Yeah. It's a bit like you today. Now, you know, everything you do, you've done already, Jane. That's the problem.
One thing I want to go back to something that you just mentioned, Abir, and it's about representation and about, I think for modern readers, sometimes you trip up on things. And, you know, if there's ever an Irish character in an Agatha Christie novel, they're either a really charming sociopath or a maid. And
which one are you, Jane?
I've never been any good at housework. So, is there anything that if you could just snap your fingers and it would be gone, what would you change about Agatha Christie's characters?
Good question.
I think it would be A Murder is Announced, which is one of my favourite Christie books. The character of Mitzi, I've got to say.
Tell us about it.
She's a refugee. So it's a kind of brilliant sort of portrait of post-war Britain. Very much used it in my writing of the new Marple book that I've written, because that's sort of post-war. Fascinating. I mean, the premise is sort of second to none. The elevator pitch is absolutely brilliant. So Mitzi is this sort of refugee character who's the cook, and she's sort of a figure of fun. And it just makes me feel really uncomfortable, because she's obviously come from sort of war-torn Europe, and she says, you know, they're all after me, they've killed my family, and everyone's sort of laughing at her. And it's not necessarily that Christie's laughing at her, but it just makes me think, was that something that people felt at the time? Was that a sort of, it's uncomfortable. So I would probably remove that. But it's also, you know, it's probably telling us something about society at the time and views at the time.
What about you, Abir?
Well, I've been thinking about this while you've been speaking, and I wouldn't want to get rid of anyone. I would want to widen the church, as it were. I would want to see her focus on the characters under the stairs, or, you know, ethnic characters, foreign characters, let's call it. I mean, she spent time in the Middle East. in Iraq. I just wish that she had looked in more detail at the societies that she was staying in then, rather than just accepting the tropes of her day. Because she was very intelligent, right? She was, when it came to women's rights, she was right at the forefront. I just wish that she had used that nous and looked outside of the confines of the society that she grew up in.
Janice.
For me, I'd like to get into the Hollow and change the attitude of Gudgeon the butler, who is a wonderful character, but change his attitude towards Doris the maid, because he bullies her from the beginning of the play to the end of that, and we'd have him at a tribunal these days if it happened. So I'd give him a bit more awareness of workers' rights, and I'd make him a feminist, and so Gudgeon and Doris will be working together to bring her to the forefront of her career. And,
I think someone has to write that book, Janice.
I think yes,
Well, I was actually going to ask. I mean, if you were doing a spin-off from an Agatha Christie, what would you do, Janice? Would you love to do the?
I would love to do the Hollow. Yeah, I'd love to. The Hollow is about a failing aristocratic family, a family that's losing their land and their house. And I'd like to perhaps look at them now, look at their descendants now to see what they're doing. So definitely that's the Hollow really says something about society at that level of society at the time. So yeah, the Hollow is really inspiring for me at the moment.
I mean, it doesn't have to be an Agatha Christie thing, but I was thinking of Vasim getting to do his Q novels, and is there anything in crime fiction that you just think I could write the hell out of a spin-off of that?
Well, that's a really good question, actually, because I've been asked that by publishers. And I suggested I want to do, so the Bond franchise asked me to do something, and I said, no, I'm not interested in doing that. What I would like to do is do an ethnic minority 00 agent. I don't want to write Bond, but I would like somebody who looks a bit like me, maybe slightly less handsome. But because I think it would be fascinating. Well, that's it. Shaken, not stirred. But I think it would be really interesting to see the conflict there, the internal conflict, the conflict with my country, right or wrong. I'd love to write that, and they've said that'd be interesting. But I'm very lazy and very slow, so it might be years and years before I ever come to doing that. But yeah, that's probably what I would do.
Lucy, you're sort of having this experience at the moment, and can you tell us about what it's been like to literally follow in Agatha Christie's footsteps?
Oh my goodness, it has been so much fun, this book, through the whole process, the kind of researching and plotting, to the writing, to even the editing. Normally this is the bit I'm editing at the moment. It's really nearly finished, and normally this is the bit where, I'm absolutely kind of climbing the walls, and it's just such fun to kind of step back into Marple's world and try and get Marple more Marple, because that feels so important to me as a huge Christie fan, but also for readers to get her absolutely right. And Mrs. Bantry, who I've got as her sidekick in the novel, she had to be in there too. It's just been a joy. It was absolutely terrifying, I'm not going to lie, when they asked me. It was this huge honour and so frightening, because obviously big shoes to step into. And then I sat with it for about a week and then came up with the idea for the book, and since then it's just been a joy. I've taken Marple on a little holiday because she doesn't really get to travel as much. And Death on the Nile was meant to be hers, fun kind of Christie fact. And at the last moment, it was changed to being a Poirot. I think when she was sort of thinking about it. But she and Mrs. Bantry have gone to the Swiss Alps together.
That sounds amazing.
Oh, thank you. It's the sort of. It's kind of a haunted post-war Swiss Alps, but also quite Grand Budapest Hotel, a bit of that. But I also wanted it to be in conversation with the sort of very masculine sort of post-war thrillers, the kind of Hammond Dinners, the Eric Amblers, the Ian Flemings, and then put these two elderly women at the centre of it. Skiing down mountains. No, maybe not.
It just sounds amazing. I cannot wait to read it. But I just think it must have maybe were there things that surprised you, that you found easy or difficult when you were doing it, or?
I think what surprised me actually, I don't know if this is very boastful, but how I think in a way easy it was to write Marple, but I think that's because Christie gives her to us so clearly. You know, she's so alive for me, and that's probably because I've read the books 4 times, you know, and watched all of the adaptations, which I wanted to do sort of to steep myself in it before writing. So her voice is so distinctive. You sort of know how she would react in any situation. You know the look that she would give someone. So that's just been a joy. That said, you know, I'm going back over and making sure there aren't any kind of Marple anachronisms in there. But also I think her humour, that's the thing that's really come back to me, that she's so funny and that also she is so dark. I mean, Nemesis is another of my favourite books because, you know, this image, it's so powerful, this image of this little sort of, I mean, actually she's quite tall, I always forget that, but she's quite tall, but this sort of, you know, very elderly woman who probably seems quite frail as the character of Nemesis. You know, I mean, it gave me goosebumps just thinking about it. She is vengeance personified.
She really is a badass. You don't realise this at the beginning. She's all for hanging, isn't she? She loves hanging people.
And I could get into the dark Marple theory as well, which is that things always happen when she's around, and she's sort of making them happen in some way. But I won't because we don't have enough time.
The dark Marple theory. We're going to have to talk about that afterwards. One question that I did want to ask was, even since we've been writing, the job of an author has changed so much. What do you think Agatha Christie would love and hate about it if she was writing now?
This. She would hate this.
Do you think she would hate this?
She's really shy.
I can't really see her doing Instagram reels.
No. She'd be off in a dig somewhere, you know.
She'd be filming herself on a selfie stick. I don't see it.
I think she'd get involved with the Netflix series that would be made of her. I think she'd be so rich because of all the streaming money she'd get.
She wouldn't be on stage with us, right? She'd be with J.K. Rowling somewhere. But yeah, I think she'd really get involved in that and work out who is going to play Poirot. I think that's who. What do you think she'd make of the different Poirots?
It's hard to say, isn't it? Because I mean, for us, I think David Suchet is the
Well, I also like Ustinov, to be fair.
Well, he was he's a favourite of mine, but I don't think he looks like the character in the books. Whereas I think...
Oh, because, yeah, fair enough, okay.
You know, in terms of the description.
What do we think? Should we have a vote? Right, come on, who do you see as Poirot when you switch on the TV? Who's going... Suchet. It sounds like Suchet. Who says Finney? Nobody says Finney.
No, Janice said Finney.
Oh, well, Janice says Finney.
He's pretty good, but...
Who's the current one? Branagh. Who says Branagh? Okay, who says Suchet? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's popular.
You're all wrong. Because it's this gentleman here. God, look, you should stand up. Show everyone your moustaches. We've got him here. Oh, yeah. Sorry.
All right, last question. If you were an Agatha Christie character, who would you be? The killer, a victim, the investigator, or a red herring?
I'd be a red herring,
You'd be a red
definitely.
herring.
I'll tell you the kind of character I'd like to be. For the first half, you think they did it. They're so awful that you think they did it.
I've always had doubts about you, Janice.
Then, sort of halfway through, things start to change, and you realise that character is actually has another reason for behaving the way they do, and in the end, they're a goodie. So I'd like to be the red herring, please.
Oh, that's nice. Abir?
I want to get murdered.
The night is young.
Yeah, no, I would love to be. I would like to be murdered gruesomely, because I think that's pretty cool. But then again, I am from Glasgow, so.
And also you have to be really objectionable there, because everyone has to have a motive to kill you, doesn't it?
Exactly.
It's a win-win, right?
Oh my goodness, this question upsets me. I can't decide. I think maybe one of those really fun kind of red herring-y, actressy glamorous characters.
So basically you.
know.
Yes.
Great, you're going to be yourself. Right, fantastic.
You would fit in perfectly, Lucy. You'd be amazing. Nobody wants to be an investigator.
I want to be Ariadne Oliver.
I'd be terrible.
Yeah, well,
Terrible investigator.
would you like to be an investigator? Yes. So there's some yeses out there. I would. I'd like to be in control.
Yes, yes, we know.
Guys, you've been amazing. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you.
And
Thank you. Thank you, Jane.
Thank you.